we've waited long enough for a new Mario Baseball. It's one of my favorite Mario sports games, and considering how much time has passed since the last one, I'm very curious what a modern entry in the series would look like. Who knows, maybe a new release is closer than we think. After Mario Strikers getting revived, maybe it's only a matter of time before Mario Baseball comes back from the dead. Although, I do hope a new game isn't as soulless as Battle League. Regardless, I think it's a fun idea to discuss the possibilities for a new Mario Baseball. The main thing we'll touch on, obviously, is the character roster. Starting with the team captains, I think it makes sense for all the previous captains to return. They're all obviously still relevant to the Mario series, so there's no reason to cut any of them. Speaking of which, I'm not going to cut any characters in this video. Mario Baseball is known for its massive character roster, so I don't think there's any benefit to cutting any of them. In terms of new captains, Rosalina and Pauline make perfect sense. They've both become very relevant characters ever since the previous Mario Baseball, so I think they would make great additions as new captains. Now let's talk about the rest of the characters. Considering the sheer number of characters we'll be talking about today, I think it makes sense to split them up somehow. For the previous entries, the characters are all split up among 6 teams. I think it's safe to say Nintendo's going to want to add lots more characters, so we'll probably need to split them up among more than just 6 teams. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to split up every character among 14 teams of 9. This gives every captain their own team and makes adding new characters a bit easier. We'll start with Mario's team. For the most part, I'm going to make every team based on a specific game in the Mario universe. Mario's team will be based on Mario Sunshine, since in the past, that's the game his team is based on. Mario's team will consist of 3 Pianta and 3 Noki variants from the last game, as well as a Mii. The Mii isn't an actual character in the Mario series, so he doesn't really fit on any of the teams, so because of this, Mario's team is probably just the easiest one to put him on. Now, we have a bit of a problem. That's only 8 characters and we need 9. Thankfully, we can just give Pianta another color variant and call it a day. Yeah, I can be that lazy. Luigi's team obviously has to be based on Luigi's Mansion. The characters that immediately come to mind when thinking of this franchise are Drybones, Boo, and King Boo. Now, I decided not to give Drybones his color variants because I had a few ideas for new characters that I thought would be more interesting than 4 Drybones. The first of which is Peepa. Peepas are very similar to Boos in the Mario series, and I think one would make a great addition to Luigi's team. I also think we could add the OG ghost design from the first Luigi's Mansion. Now, when you think of Luigi's Mansion, there's one character that's been a staple across the entire series, Egad. I think he makes perfect sense to be on Luigi's team. Another character who I would love to see in this game is Polterpup. Sure, he's a bit of an obscure addition, but he is a very big character across Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3. Well, he's also not as obscure as the next one, Helen Gravely. Helen Gravely was one of the main antagonists alongside King Boo in Luigi's Mansion 3. It's a little obscure, sure, but I think it's fairly reasonable for it to be included here. It feels weird putting so many of Luigi's biggest fears on his own team, but hey, it's not like Mario Baseball's canon. Moving on to Peach's team. The obvious choice is to fill her team with Toads, but I think it would make a lot more sense for her team to be based on Princess Peach Showtime. Unfortunately, this game doesn't have a ton of characters to pull from, but one that does stick out is Peach's companion Stella. As one of the faces of this game, it makes complete sense for her to be here. Of course, we would also need the Theets. Lastly, as the villain, Madame Grape deserves a spot here too. This is definitely a different team than Peach has had in the past, but I think it still fits her well. Now, if Peach isn't going to get the Toads, who is? I think if Daisy's going to have her own team, she should get the Toads. Daisy really only appears in the spin-offs, so she's not really associated with very many characters. Thankfully for us, she's often associated with Toads, so we can take that and run with it. We'll add all the Toads to her team. Once again, we're only at 8 characters, but to solve this problem, I figured a good addition could be Captain Toad. It's kind of a lame addition, sure, but hey, it's another character slot. Besides, Mario Baseball isn't exactly known for its creativity in characters. Moving on to the first of our new captains, Rosalina's team should obviously take inspiration from Mario Galaxy. Obviously, the Lumas should be introduced as part of her team. In terms of color variants, I think yellow, white, orange, brown, green, and blue make sense as they represent different iconic Lumas found within the game. In addition to the Lumas, I think it makes sense for Lubba to make her triumphant return to the Mario franchise. She's perfect for a game like this. Lastly, this is a bit of an odd rep for Mario Galaxy, but I think Honey Queen makes sense for this game as well. She'll just have to be scaled down a lot more. I don't think this is the craziest pick since she was in Mario Kart, so it's certainly possible. I think these characters make the most sense to represent a team based on Galaxy. In terms of our other new captain, once again, it's pretty obvious which game Pauline's team should be based on. There's a handful of characters from Mario Odyssey that deserve to be here too, so Odyssey makes the most sense. The main two are of course Cappy and Tiara. These two play a massive role in Odyssey, so they make a ton of sense to be here. The next set of characters that come to mind when I think of Odyssey are the Brutals. You fight these guys several times in Odyssey, so they also make a ton of sense to be here. Similar to Honey Queen, Madame Brood would also have to be scaled down quite a bit. We're still left with one spot for Pauline's team. I couldn't really think of a good Odyssey character to add, so I decided Kid Pauline from Bonanza might be the best choice. She's a very iconic part of the game, so I think she easily earns a spot in a game like this. Moving on to Yoshi's team, his is pretty easy. I decided to cut the light blue and pink Yoshi color variants to make room for other characters. Alongside the 4 Yoshi variants, it makes sense for Yoshi to have Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, Baby Peach, Baby Daisy, and Baby Rosalina. Yoshi, is there something you want to talk about? Anyway, these are the reps from Epstein. Yoshi, I said Yoshi's Island! Anyway, let's talk about Birdo's team. Birdo's team can take a bit of inspiration from Yoshi's Island as well. Specifically, she can take all the Shy Guys. Birdo and Shy Guy are always lumped together, so it makes sense that they would be on the same team. I also think Birdo could have Poochie on her team. After Poochie's appearance in Mario Kart Tour, I think it's very possible that he'll be in the next Mario Baseball. While it would make a bit more sense if he was on Yoshi's team, I thought it was more important we put the baby characters on Yoshi's team, so Birdo's team will have to do for Poochie. Lastly, I think Baby Wario and Baby Waluigi could potentially appear in this game too as members of Birdo's team. Since they're expected to play a big role in Mario Tennis Fever, I could definitely see them being added in this game as a result. I think they're more likely to be on Birdo's team as opposed to Yoshi's, since Birdo, Wario, and Waluigi sort of act as anti-heroes in many of their appearances. Well, Birdo's team is slightly less concerning than Yoshi's. Slightly. Alright, for Wario's team, his should be similar to what it was in the previous games, where he takes some of the classic enemies. This would include Goomba, Paragoomba, Koopa, Paratroopa, and their respective color variants. To fill the last 2 slots on his team, I was thinking we could add the Bone Goomba from New Super Mario Bros. 2, as well as a winged version. I think that's a fairly realistic lineup for Wario. Next up, Waluigi's team. I think Waluigi's team would be similar to Wario's in that it would include some standard Mario enemies. I filled his team with some misfit enemies that didn't really belong to any other team. I think that's pretty fitting since Waluigi himself sorta acts like a misfit. For returning enemies, I added Monimole, Wiggler, and Blooper. And for new characters, I added Spike, Ninja, Cheep Cheep, Piranha Plant, and Chain Chomp. I figured these characters were likely to be in the next game, and I felt Waluigi's team was the best place for them. Moving on to DK's team, I think it makes sense to make DK's team about Donkey Kong Bonanza, and Diddy Kong's team about the classic DK characters. In terms of Bonanza reps, we already have Kid Pauline on Pauline's team, so I think the next set of characters we should add should be Voidco. Void Kong, Poppy Kong, and Grumpy Kong are perfect candidates for a game like this. Next up, of course King K. Rool needs to be on this team. His return in Bonanza was absolutely incredible. There's no way he's not in the next game. The last 4 character slots can be filled with Critter and his color variants. They aren't a huge part of Bonanza, but they are a surprise enemy at the end of the game, so we'll add them to DK's team. It feels weird adding all the villains to DK's team, but Mario Baseball teams are more about the characters who are associated with each other as opposed to characters who actually get along. I mean, King K. Rool and the Critters were on DK's team in Super Sluggers, so it's not that unrealistic. For Diddy Kong's team, I added a lot of older members of the DK crew. The returning characters include Dixie Kong, Funky Kong, Tiny Kong, and Baby DK. For new characters, I tried to focus on the most relevant Kong, starting with Cranky Kong. To be honest, I'm surprised he wasn't already a character in Mario Baseball. He's a huge part of the DK games, so his inclusion here is almost a necessity. Next, I added Lanky, Chunky, and Kiddy Kong. I figured these Kongs deserve to be in the game the most, but you could swap them out with others if need be. I never realized how many Kongs there were. Alright, on to Bowser's team. Bowser obviously needs to have the most intimidating characters on his team. Starting us off, I figured Petey Piranha made sense to be here since he's one of the most iconic Mario villains. I also thought King Bob-omb earns a spot on this team too, and I was a little surprised to learn he wasn't already in Mario Baseball, but I'm sure he'll be in the next one. The last new character I added for this team is Dry Bowser. I don't think I need to elaborate on this one. Of course Bowser would have his skeletal self on his team. The remaining character slots could be filled with color swaps of Magic Koopa. That's a pretty heavy-hitting team, no? Finally, our last team for today, Bowser Jr.'s team. The first characters I saved for this team were the Hammer Bro variants. I added an Ice Bro color swap as well, since the Ice variant was noticeably absent from the last 2 games. I also added a Sledge Bro because why not? In terms of more new characters, I thought Boom Boom and Pom Pom felt like good additions to this team as well. They aren't quite intimidating enough to be on Bowser's team, so I figured Bowser Jr.'s team was a good place for them. And now, the last character I added to this game was Shadow Mario. I thought he would be a very fitting addition to Junior's team for obvious reasons. I think this is a pretty good team for Junior. And that's all for characters. I think splitting them up by team definitely helps break down which games deserve to get represented and prevents certain ones from being left out. Let me know if you agree with this roster. I'm sure there's some characters I didn't think of, so please let me know of them down in the comments below. Obviously the character roster is the main thing I'm sure you wanted to hear about, as the other parts of this game will likely remain almost, if not completely, the same. However, there is one more aspect of the game I wanted to touch on: the stadiums. In Mario Baseball, many of the captains get their own stadium. I figured I would talk about a few ideas for stadiums in the next game as well. For a lot of the stadiums, we could just bring back or alter already existing stadiums in Mario Baseball. For example, Mario's stadium would just remain the same, a no-gimmick stadium that everyone can enjoy. For Luigi's stadium, his would once again be based around Luigi's Mansion, especially considering I built his team around that game. Peaches could do something new and base her stadium on Princess Peach Showtime, since that's the game I built her team on. For Daisy, I don't think Daisy Cruiser could be topped. I think it's just such a cool reference and a highly fitting stadium for her. Rosalina's stadium could either be ice-themed or space-themed. Both would work since she's associated with both themes, so it would really depend on which one would work better. However, I think a space theme would fit her more. Pauline's stadium could be based on New Donk City, and maybe even take inspiration from Wario's stadium and Super Sluggers. For Yoshi, his would obviously be based on Yoshi's Island in some way. There's a lot of options for what they could do with that. They could utilize the Piranha Plants again, or maybe base it around a different enemy or mechanic. Birdo's stadium is a little tough since she's not really associated with one particular spin-off title. I thought maybe she could get a beach stadium since no other character really has one. But if you have a better idea for her, please let me know, I'm very curious. Since the city theme is already taken, Wario's stadium could be desert themed like in the original Mario Baseball. Wario's often depicted in a desert setting, so this would make sense for him. Next, Waluigi's stadium could be based on Waluigi Pinball in some way. It's not the craziest thing since Daisy Cruiser was already a stadium in Super Sluggers. For DK and Diddy Kong, I was thinking DK could take inspiration from the original arcade game and have his stadium based on a construction site, while Diddy Kong could have the classic jungle theme. Maybe DK's stadium could even take place in the Ingot Isle Cave-In from Bonanza. Moving on to Bowser's stadium, his would obviously be lava themed, no question there. Lastly, for Bowser Jr., I was thinking his stadium could be airship themed. Bowser Jr. is often associated with airships, so it'd make a lot of sense for his stadium to be modeled after that. And that's all my predictions for the eventual return to the Mario Baseball series. While I talked about a lot of random characters and stadiums in this video, I hope you still enjoyed. If you have any ideas for the next Mario Baseball, please let me know in the comments below, I'd love to hear them. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing as it really means a lot to me. Okay, bye.